Welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out this new video here on the Phil Hodges Experience. And this is the new Speaker of the House. This is his first speech. His name is Mike Johnson. He just got elected in. The last Speaker of the House got kicked out. Long story short, he wasn't conservative enough. This guy supposedly is super conservative. So I'm hoping this is a speech where he kind of goes over his agenda and lays out his floor plan, so to speak, and what he's going to be doing as the new leader of the House. So we're going to analyze it. I'm going to throw out my opinions on what I think might be going on, what he's saying, so forth, so on, and we'll dive right in.
Thank you all. First, a few words of gratitude. I want to thank Leader Jeffries. I do look forward to working with you on behalf of the American people. I know we see things from very different points of view, but I know that in your heart you love and care about this country and you want to do what's right. And so we're going to find common ground there. All right?
Some people
I want to express my great thanks for our Speaker Emeritus, Kevin McCarthy. Never be overstated, and I want to thank him for his leadership. I want to thank my dedicated wife of almost 25 years, Kelly. She's not here. We couldn't get a flight in time. This happened sort of to make you proud. To my colleagues, I want to thank you all for the trust that you have instilled in me to lead us in this historic and unprecedented moment that we're in. The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down. I want to say to the American people, on behalf of all of us here, we hear you. We know the challenges you're facing. We know that, that there's a lot going on in our country, domestically and abroad, and we are ready to get to work again to solve those problems, and we will. Our mission here is to serve you well, to restore the people's faith in this House, in this great and essential institution. My dad, it was mentioned, my dad was a firefighter. He was an assistant chief in the fire department in my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, a little town in northwest Louisiana. On September 17, 1984, when I was 12 years old, he was critically burned and permanently disabled in the line of duty. All I ever wanted to be when I grew up was the chief of the fire department in Shreveport. But after the explosion on that fateful day, he nearly died, and it was a long road back, and it's changed all of our life trajectories. I'm the oldest.
Okay, so I don't think that's what this whole speech is supposed to be about. It doesn't seem right. Personally, I don't care about this kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and watch it, but personally, I don't care about his backstory and history. I'm more worried about his plan for the future. If he's conservative, what's his agenda? What bills is he pushing? Things like that. Who is he gonna ally with? How is he gonna vote on things? Because again, the last guy was messing up. I don't ever know the details of these stuff, but it sounds like he's getting ready to go through a motivational kind of like speech or whatever on why now he's so dedicated to his job. I don't care why he's dedicated. We're just assuming that he already is dedicated. He should be. He had to fight for the position. Why did you fight for a job position that you're not dedicated for? Right? So just say the important parts. We just skip the fluff. You know, that's what I would like to do. But we're going to find out more about his father and his childhood, I think. So let's do that. Who knows? It might make you like him more. But I'm pretty sure this is one of those draw you in techniques that they teach in speech therapy or whatever. Speech class? We stand up and talk. Whatever that's called.
Those are 4 kids. And my dad, he lived with pain all the rest of his life for decades more. And I lost my dad to cancer 3 days before I got elected to Congress. 3 days. And he wanted to be there at my election night so badly. I'm the first college graduate in my family. This was a big deal to him. And so it was several weeks after that. It was early 2017. It was my freshman term, and it fell to me to be in the rostrum one night to serve here as Speaker Pro Tem. I thought that was a big deal until I figured out that's what you do for freshmen late at night. And I think if my memory serves, Miss Jackson Lee was winding down one of her long, eloquent speeches.
I don't get the references.
And not that I was not enraptured by her speech, but I looked up at the top of the chamber there, and I saw the face of Moses staring down. And I just felt in that moment the weight of this place, right? The history that is revered here and the future that we are called to forge. And I really was just kind of almost overwhelmed with emotion. It occurred to me in that moment, it had been several weeks, and I had not had an opportunity yet to grieve my dad's passing, and I just had this sense that somehow he knew. And I had tears come to my eyes, and I was standing here, and I'm wiping them away, and then it suddenly occurs to me, the late-night C-SPAN viewers are going to think something's very wrong with the new young congressman from Louisiana. It wasn't Sheila's speech. I'm sorry. I just knew in that moment that my dad, my father, would be proud of me, and I felt that he was. And I think all of our parents are proud of what we're called to do here. I think all the American people at one time had great pride in this institution, but right now, that's in jeopardy. And we have a challenge before us right now to rebuild and restore that trust. This is a beautiful...
I'm going to go back there a little bit. Here's something that people do that annoys me. They do this to animals all the time, but he says that when he got elected, he could tell that his dad knew and that he was super proud. He basically said something to that effect. I don't think so. I think that's just your human brain getting closure for you, the closure that you needed. That's the way I don't think, in fact, once you're dead, I think you're dead. Right? Like, ideally, whether it's heaven, hell, Netherland, be reincarnated, or whatever it is, right? Presumably, you'd be busy doing that new adventure, so to speak. Peter Pan, if, to die would be the beginning of an amazing adventure. When he says to Captain Hook, like, ideally, if you die, you're busy doing something else. So, like, that's the whole point of dying and passing on. You can let go of this world to go into a new adventure. So I think this is more about just how humans in general cope with loss. That's what I think. Yeah, you let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'd be interested to hear what the internet in general has to say on death and closure and things like that.
Young congressman from Louisiana. It wasn't Sheila's speech. I'm sorry. I just knew in that moment that my dad, my father, would be proud of me, and I felt that he was. And I think all of our parents are proud of what we're called to do here. I think all the American people at one time had great pride in this institution, but right now, that's in jeopardy. And we have a challenge before us right now to rebuild and restore that trust. This is a beautiful country. It's the beauty of America that allows a firefighter's kid like me to come here and serve in this sacred chamber where great men and women have served before all of us and strive together to build and then preserve what Lincoln did refer to as the last best hope of man on earth.
See right there what he could have said? Remember that whole story about his father and all his heroic stuff and dying of cancer and stuff? Right there, he could have left all of that out and just said instead, right there what he just said, something to the effect of, a short sentence or two about like, man, I just had it. But basically about how I, being the son of a firefighter, could become a congressman. That is amazing. Paraphrase that a little bit, right? But yeah, you can do that without telling that story, and I believe most people will be able to connect the dots. Like, oh, he's the son of a firefighter. You can word it clever. That's what the story was there to pull at the heartstrings, to get the emotional ploy. That's what it was. So if you were just to edit that out, oh, I'm very logic and reason based in my analysis on stuff, and emotion just kind of in general I don't like it. It gets in the way and gets annoying. And so from my perception, is that story was there was to fog and gunk up the works of what else was going on. And that's why I tend not to care about that kind of stuff. If you could just whoop, just okay, Southern Fire, cool, move on. I don't like that's. I don't understand. Like we're still learning, but I don't understand how me knowing that is going to affect my opinion on how you vote, right? Because that's what your job is. Vote the way I want you to vote. Ideally, that's what we vote on things for. So I don't know. You let me know in the comments.
We stand at a very dangerous time. I'm stating the obvious. We all know that. The world is in turmoil. But a strong America is good for the entire world.
Facts. Who doesn't apply for that? Some people can't do this.
We are the beacon of freedom, and we must preserve this grand experiment in self-governance. It still is. We're only 247 years into this grand experiment. We don't know how long it will last, but we do know that the founders told us to take good care of it. I want to tell all my colleagues here what I told the Republicans in that room last night. I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it, and to ensure that our republic remains standing as the great beacon of light and hope and freedom in a world that desperately needs it. It was in 1962, that our national motto, "In God We Trust," was adorned above this rostrum. And if you look at the little guide that they give tourists and constituents who come and visit the house, if you turn in there to about page 14 in the middle of that guide, it tells you the history of this. And it says very simply, these words were placed here above us. This motto was placed here as a rebuke of the Cold War era philosophy of the Soviet Union. That philosophy was Marxism and communism, which begins with the premise that there is no God. This is a critical distinction that is also articulated in our nation's birth certificate. We know the language well, the famous second paragraph that we used to have children memorize in school, and they don't do that so often anymore, but they should. G.K. Chesterton was the famous British philosopher and statesman, and he said one time, "America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed." And he said it's listed with almost theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence. What is our creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not born equal, created equal. And they are endowed by the same inalienable rights, with the same inalienable rights, life, liberty.
Yeah, and he definitely made that distinction. That was good. Created equal. Just like there shouldn't be equal outcomes, but there should be equal opportunity. That's the other thing I think he will eventually allude to. We'll see.
Liberty, pursuit of happiness. That is the creed that has animated our nation since its founding, that has made us the great nation that we are. And we're in a time of extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition. Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it. And tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body, and we must not waver. Our nation's greatest ally in the Middle East is under attack. The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world, that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict. We have a catastrophe at our southern border. The Senate and the White House can no longer ignore the problem.
That was another thing he pointed out there. He really emphasized on that good, because one of the conservative points of view on this is, since it's protecting the Jews, it's essentially like a race war, like a genocide. This is a genocide, and so this is a good versus evil, not just a right versus wrong thing. This is a good versus evil. Yeah. So that's that take. That's a conservative take, in general, generally speaking. That's why he emphasized that good. We'll go back so you can really see him focus on that word. Maybe that's why other people click there. Good. We'll see.
We're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict. We have a catastrophe at our southern border. The Senate and the White House can no longer ignore the problem. From Texas to New York, wave after wave of illegal migrants are stressing our communities to their breaking points. We know that our streets are being flooded with fentanyl in all of our communities. Children and even adults are dying from it. The status quo is unacceptable. Inaction is unacceptable, and we must come together and address the broken border. We have to do it.
Yeah, as somebody in Texas, I definitely agree with that. That's one reason why so far I really like my governor, Greg Abbott, because he seems like he's actually trying super hard to get the border under some level of more control. I think it's one of those, that story, that Greek story about pushing the rock up the hill for infinity, but uphill battle, I guess. But I'm definitely glad that he's at least trying. And the fact that there's people that are like suing him and that are reopening the borders, it blows my mind. It's ridiculous. But it's, again, this what we're doing right now is a fight for the soul of the country. So sometimes they're gonna play out rough. You win some, you lose some. Ideally, the good is gonna win the evil in the end of the day, in general. Well, these people can't fight, so they're off.
The skyrocketing cost of living is unsustainable, and Americans should not have to worry about how they're going to feed their family every week because they can't afford their groceries anymore. Everybody in this room should think about this. Here's the stats. Prices have increased over 17% in the last 2 years. Credit card interest rates are at the highest level in nearly 3 decades, and mortgage rates are now at a peak we haven't seen since 2001. We have to bring relief to the American people by reining in federal spending and bringing down inflation. The greatest threat to our national security is our nation's debt. And while we've been sitting in this room, that's right, the debt has crossed almost $33.6 trillion. In the time that it's going to take me to deliver this speech, we'll go up another $20 million in debt. It's unsustainable. We have to get the country back on track. Now, we know this is not going to be an easy task, and tough decisions will have to be made. But the consequences, if we don't act now, are unbearable. We have a duty to the American people to explain this to them so they understand it well, and we are going to establish a bipartisan debt commission to begin working on this crisis immediately. We all know that we also live in a time of bitter partisanship. It was noted, and it's been on display here today. Right? When our people are losing their faith in government, when they're losing sight of the principles that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world, I think we got to be mindful of that. We're going to fight. We're going to fight.
Oh, wait, and Daydream. I definitely missed some stuff. I missed a whole lot of stuff. I had a whole adventure there.
People by reining in federal spending and bringing down inflation. Americans should not have to worry about how they're going to feed their family every week because they can't afford their groceries anymore. Everybody in this room should think about this. Here's the stats. Prices have increased over 17% in the last 2 years. Credit card interest rates are at the highest level in nearly 3 decades, and mortgage rates are now at a peak we haven't seen since 2001. We have to bring relief to the American people by reining in federal spending and bringing down inflation. The greatest threat to our national security is our nation's debt. And while we've been sitting in this room, that's right, the debt has crossed almost $33.6 trillion. In the time that it's going to take me to deliver this speech, we'll go up another $20 million in debt. It's unsustainable. We have to get the country back on track. Now, we know this is not going to be an easy task, and tough decisions will have to be made. But the consequences, if we don't act now, are unbearable. We have a duty to the American people to explain this to them so they understand it well. And we are going to establish a bipartisan debt commission to begin working on this crisis immediately. Immediately.
Okay. More people should be clapping. It's all you people.
We all know that we also live in a time of bitter partisanship. It was noted.
Yeah.
And it's been on display here today, right?
Yeah. Well,
when our people are losing their faith in government, when they're losing sight of the principles that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world, I think we got to be mindful of that. We're going to fight. We're going to fight vigorously over our core principles because they're at odds a lot of times now in this modern era. We have to sacrifice sometimes our preferences because that's what's necessary in a legislative body. But we will defend our core principles to the end. In his farewell address, thank you. In his farewell address, President Reagan explained the secret of his rapport with people. And I like to paraphrase his explanation all the time. He said, you know, they call me the great communicator, but I really wasn't that. He said, I was just communicating great things. And they're the same great things that have guided our nation since its founding. What are those great things? I call them the 7 core principles of American conservatism, but let me concede to you all, I think it's really quintessentially the core principles of our nation. I boil them down to individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, and human dignity. Yeah. Those are the foundations that made us the extraordinary nation that we are. And you and I today are the stewards of those principles. The things that have made us the freest, most powerful, most successful nation in the history of the world. The things that have made us truly exceptional. In this time of great crisis, it is our duty to work together, as previous generations of great leaders have, to face these great challenges and solve these great problems. I will conclude with this. The job of the Speaker of the House is to serve the whole body, and I will. But I've made a commitment to my colleagues here that this Speaker's office is going to be known for decentralizing the power here. My office is going to be known for members being more involved and having more influence in our processes and all the major decisions that are made here, for predictable processes and regular order. We owe that to the people. That's right.
Sierra said regular order. He implied something there, but I don't know what he's referencing. Watch out. Listen to how his voice influx is. Flex. I don't know. Whoops. Oh.
My office is going to be known for members being more involved and having more influence in our processes and all the major decisions that are made here, for predictable processes and regular order. We owe that to the people. That's right. And I want to make this commitment to you, to my colleagues here and on the other side of the aisle as well. My office is going to be known for trust and transparency and accountability, for good stewardship of the people's treasure, for the honesty and integrity that is incumbent upon us, all of us, here in the People's House. Our system of government is not a perfect system. It's got a lot of challenges, but it is still the best one in the world, and we have an opportunity to preserve it.
people saying it. Yeah, look, some people fucking reluctant as shit, but they...
Last thing I'm going to say is a message to the rest of the world. They have been watching this drama play out for a few weeks.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot of lessons, but you know what? Through adversity, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And we want our allies around the world to know that this body of lawmakers is reporting again to our duty stations. Let the enemies of freedom around the world hear us loud and clear. The People's House is back in business.
We'll see. Some big words.
Thank you. We will do our duty here. We will serve you well. We will govern well. And we'll make you proud in this institution again. We're going to fight every day to make sure that is true. I look forward to the days ahead. I genuinely believe in my heart that the best days of America are still ahead of us. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was a good speech. So now what we need to do, though, is wait to see what actually goes down, what he pushes, what he fights, what he doesn't fight, how long he'll gridlock the system. Because remember, that's what American politics is built around. Our government system is designed for gridlock. And so that way it requires the vast majority to actually be able to push something through. So is he going to be able to gather the majority and be able to push things through? Or is it time, and during the times where he needs to gridlock the system, how long is he willing to hold out before he starts cracking and breaking and negotiating and doing the game that is politics? So I really look forward to seeing supposedly if we are back in business, and hopefully good, new, and exciting things are going to be coming out of this guy. What's his name again? Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House. And eventually I'm going to start doing live shows, by the way, so please leave a comment and subscribe. It's going to support me, support the channel, and hopefully one of these days I'll be able to start interviewing people like this guy, because I would love, he went through his honor system and integrity, his 7 value systems. I would love to interview him and be able to break down exactly what he means by that, and just throw some random questions out there, like what would you do if XXX, one of those ridiculous questions you might ask one of your friends. So if you would like to see that kind of stuff, definitely please support the channel. And with that, this Phil, we'll see you in the future.